Hello everyone. I am on the incorrect window. See? I will fix that. Eternity, please. No. Well, this is a good start. Why is OBS doing this to me? Okay, if we close everything, open this. No, still not. Help. Why is it doing this? Okay, no, I think it's correct. Okay, sorry about that. As I was saying, welcome to this week's episode of the Heroes Table. I'm Hisha, your host, and with me I have my co-hosts Midnight and Teluvius.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
All right, so yeah, I think we have a few items on the agenda today. There was a new update last week, I think on Monday, if I recall correctly. Finally getting the offline or off-chain auction house. I actually have not had time to check it out because I've been pretty much away from home for the last few weeks. But excited to get a first look at it today. Yeah, and then we will have some. I'm not sure if meta discussion is the right word, but we'll be discussing some potential changes to the show, just to see what everyone thinks. We've made some considerations that we would like to share about the Heroes Table as a show. I think that's it. You guys can correct me if we've talked about something else, but I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we
Sounds right
should maybe just start with the update stuff, and then when more people maybe here, then we can go into the other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so everything does seem to be working now. So I see the auction house has taken the Wishing Well spot, and the Wishing Well is now in the town, which I guess makes more sense. I don't recall it. Did it replace anything, or was there not something there? Oh, and the Wishing Well doesn't seem to have a buff at the moment.
I know they did a little shuffling around.
Yeah, but I don't recall if anything was like removed. I don't recall what used to be in the town, if anything. Maybe the tavern? It got moved up. Damn, I guess I'll have to go back to an older episode to see how the layout was back then.
Yeah.
It might be the tavern that got moved up to the hill, maybe.
The Wishing Well looks nice and tucked into the village there.
Yeah, it does really match at this position.
Whoa. Look at these auctions.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of auctions already.
That's
and
awesome.
You can even load more. Okay. It's very nice.
Oh man. And look at the filters.
Yeah, I was just opening that. Yeah, I like that.
That's fantastic.
So you can filter on attributes and on auction. So I guess attributes is item stuff, and auction is more meta stuff about like this price and this level, I guess. Oh, so that's sorting. Okay, and then you can sort by rarity. So I guess that's more like a sorting rather than a filter. Well, I guess the rarity is kind of a filter. Okay, so I guess buy now is optional, since you can take a box that says has buy now price. Oh, that's pretty cool. I like this filter. And then you can, of course, quick filter on, I guess, item type, armor, weapons, two-handed. Oh, you can have multiple filters. So if I want to see weapons and armor, then I can do that. That's neat. Materials has its own auction house, it seems. Characters as well. 250,000 gold for a vampire. I would say that's a steal. Oh, you can even auction coins, like the coins you get for
Oh.
beating bosses.
That's cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, that is very nice.
Yeah, I just created a bunch of or not a bunch, but a few auctions, and it was super smooth experience. That's really nice.
So how does this work? Because I can't make an offer, but I can buy now. Can you make an auction that is only selling and
Well,
not
probably.
actually an auction?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
when you go to create an auction, you have just sell or you have like accept bids. So you can have is like one that's just sell now or one that just runs on bids.
I see. Just sell and allow bids. So I guess if you allow bids, we'll still have the selling price as well.
Oh, you can still set buy now price.
Yeah, but then because it seems like the selling price is mandatory based on the red star that's on it. But when you go to the filter in the auctions, you have an option of filtering has buy now. So what is the purpose of this toggle if all auctions has a buy now price?
That is a good question.
Unless it's just sorting on the buy now. No, it says has buy now, so it must be either or. Yeah, that's another way to sort on buy now. That's a good question, I guess. Mostly because it's my own question, but I mean.
Good question, Hisha. Thank you, Hisha.
Yeah.
No, it is a good question though. If why have that filter if it applies to everything?
Yeah. That's probably a reason for it. Or maybe there's a future reason for it. But yeah, otherwise I think the new auction house looks great. And I think you can still use the old one. One thing to note is if you have items on the old one, it will not show in the new one. You will have to close your old auctions or something else. And I think you also need to like unsynchronize items from chain to off chain for them to work in the off chain auction house. So that's just something to be aware of if you can't find an item that you want to sell or that you already have in the on-chain auction house, then you will need to get it off the on-chain auction house and then off-chain and then on the off-chain auction house. I don't know if there's a shortcut to that, and I don't think I can check it because I'm not logged in with my wallet at the moment. So I don't know that I can see stuff. Auction. I can see stuff. I don't have auctions, so I can't really test it either. But yeah, that's just something to be aware of. If you have auctions, then might be some extra steps to getting it in the offline auction house. Or not offline, off-chain. Yeah. But definitely a bunch more stuff on the auction house than we are used to. Now that it's off-chain.
Yeah.
Probably gonna see a lot more use than the on-chain auction house, at least for the time being. Maybe we'll. I don't actually know what the plan for the on-chain auction house is because it's kind of redundant at this point. So maybe it's just gonna disappear completely. There's no really like you can just mint the items when you buy them on the off-chain auction house if you want the items on-chain. So you don't really have to. Like it's cheaper basically to auction it on the off-chain auction house because you don't pay gas. Only for minting it, but you would have to do that anyway, I guess.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I wonder if the on-chain auction house in the future will allow you to buy with different tokens.
That could be one selling point of the on-chain versus off-chain.
That'd be interesting.
I'm wondering if that has other limitations that make that impossible. But yeah, it could be very cool if you could basically like kind of like just like basically a built-in swap where you can just say I want to buy this, and then whatever currency you have in your wallet you can just use.
Right. Or could, use your glory to buy items that are on chain, and then you could.
But I wonder if you will be able to buy like set up auctions in the off-chain with Gloria also, as well as gold.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. You'd have to, yeah, that would be sort of interesting, I think, because it'd have to track that on chain somehow, right? I mean, I guess.
Yeah, it depends. It depends how they want to synchronize between the on-chain and off-chain glory, because there will be glory in the game already, which has to be tracked. So I imagine there's gonna be like some game wallet or multiple game wallets that just like keep track of how much glory is in the game, like in the off-chain stuff. And I guess it would just be part of that. And then they have their internal database stuff, like for all the items, they keep an internal state. I imagine they would do so for the glory as well. So they just keep an internal state, and then you just mint the glory, or well, you extract the glory, basically a withdrawal, I guess, from the game when you want it on chain.
Right.
And then you just don't have it available in the game, or you would like it would work the same as gold, I imagine, in that case. Because gold, as far as I know, is also a token, right? Or at least it was at some point.
I don't think it was ever meant to be an on-chain token. I think there was a little bit of liquidity made to help facilitate people getting gold or selling gold, but it was essentially an extremely low price, and I think it was just so that people could buy gold if they wanted.
I wonder if it's still possible to synchronize. I cannot check this right now because I'm not logged in with my wallet, but I wonder if it's still possible to synchronize gold to the blockchain. I imagine it would be, at which point I imagine they would just use the same system for glory, because it's like it's already existing for gold, as far as I can tell. So I think they've kind of already solved that problem. The question, of course, is if they want to keep gold as an on-chain currency as well. I don't know if they have any legal problems with that. I imagine that they would have to go through the same things as they do with Glory, except gold is not actually airdropped as far as I know, and I don't know if Glory will be either. But I mean, the what's it called? The criteria for the coins are different, because Glory is supposed to be like an actual, like it has a purpose and stuff, while gold is more utility. So they have like vastly different use cases. That's the word I was looking for. So I don't know if they have the same legal hurdles with gold as they have had for glory. But yeah, because since gold is already a token, I hope there will be no obstacles about that.
Yeah, from what I recall, gold was always meant to be an off-chain only your utility token in the game.
Yeah. The utility was always supposed to be off-chain, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was available on-chain as well. Like you could synchronize it, because all items in Eternity are basically synchronizable to the blockchain. And I guess you can say the same thing for all the items. They are also essentially supposed to be off-chain utility items for playing the game.
Right.
But the option is there if in case you want it on the blockchain.
Right.
For like privacy reasons, or well, I guess not privacy, but for like safety reasons. I'm not sure what a good word is. And I think you can, if you have stuff synchronized to the blockchain, I think you can still use it. I think the only difference is the auction house. That's the only thing where you won't be able to use, like the off-chain auction house, you won't be able to use on-chain stuff, and vice versa on the on-chain auction house. But I think in all other cases, the game doesn't really care if you have on-chain or off-chain stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think except when you're actually spending gold, there might be some, like you will see that you have the gold, but you won't be able to spend it in some cases because you don't have it, like, I think it has to be either fully synchronized or not synchronized. It can't be like in process of being synchronized, which can happen for various reasons. Then you just finish the synchronization and it's all good. But I imagine if you had to spend the gold that you have on chain, you would have to do it through a transaction. So I'm not sure exactly how that works in everything. Like it's changed a lot. I don't think anyone has used the on-chain stuff in a while. So I don't really know, at least I don't know how it works at this point, if it works at all. Like you will always be able to basically synchronize it back to the game, back to off-chain. So it's not like there's any value lost, but I'm not sure how much you can actually do with stuff that is on-chain. You will be able to see it, I know that for sure, but I'm not sure if you'll be able to use it. It might have to be basically synchronized back into the off-chain world, so to say. But yeah, I think yeah, go
That'll
ahead.
be an interesting like distinction to sort of work through.
Mm-hmm.
Is what is the purpose of the chain on chain? What is the purpose of the off chain? And are there distinct instances where the team wants to force people on the chain?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess from a technological standpoint, you don't really need, like for Eternity as a product, you don't technically need the blockchain. Like everything that Eternity does at this point can be done without blockchain, as far as I'm aware.
Mm-hmm.
It's really only the economics behind Eternity and the I guess business model or revenue share model or whatever we want to call it. I think that's really the part where the blockchain is gonna shine for Eternity. But I think it's still nice to have the option to synchronize stuff to the blockchain because at least for some advocates that is an important part of blockchain, and I think it's nice that we support that. But from a purely technical perspective, I don't think we will have any benefits for using blockchain for the game itself.
Right.
From a purely technical perspective.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And really, I mean, it makes more sense at this point to ensure that you can do everything off chain that you want to, because then it does open up, like the team has been working on, the App Store. If you put an app put Eternity on the App Store and the player goes to do something with an item and it says, oh, you can't do that because you're not on chain, I feel like that's going to be a huge detraction from the game for folks that are on Web 2 and just want to do a more traditional experience with transactions and stuff. They're going to be like, not on chain. Why would I want to do that? I don't want to do that. I'm not going to spend this money. Screw this game. I'm going to go next door. Like if folks don't want to be on chain and they want to spend their money in Eternity, which is what we want, then we have to let them spend their money in Eternity.
Yeah.
And not give them a reason to not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's most of the work that the devs have put into the game, at least this year, if not already started last year. I don't really know. I don't remember how long they've been working on it, but for a long time they've been working towards this goal, basically, of not exactly separating on-chain and off-chain, but at least making it more accessible for off-chain people so that it's as intuitive as possible and doesn't require blockchain interaction for those that either don't know how to do that or refuses to do that. Because again, we want as big of a market share as possible and we want as big as a customer base as possible. So catering to as many people as possible is going to be crucial to that. And this work that has been put into the game over the last many months has been towards that. And I think we are finally seeing the fruits of that labor, or at least we will soon. I think this last update is probably a sign that we are getting very close to something.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's sort of an interesting. I mean, at this point, Eternity and the team is sort of at an interesting point where they started as like a crypto project, a crypto company, and it seems like where we've ended up is the idea at this point. The way I think I would sort of classify it is like a small indie game studio with a revenue sharing model.
Mhm. Yeah, pretty much.
Because with the bringing stuff off chain to make it more accessible to people off chain, it's essentially a game studio that uses blockchain to share
The
revenue.
revenue.
And like that sounds cool to me. I'm into that. You
Yeah,
know, it's
definitely.
like there's tons of indie game studios and they make great products. But what if you could like make great games? But what if you could play a great game and get a piece of the revenue too? Like it's all sort of bonus at that point.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think it's an interesting model for sure, and I guess a lot of people are gonna ask probably like what do the devs get out of basically sharing their revenue? Like why would other developers look at this and say, I want to do this too?
Yeah.
Because like we're basically taking money away from the developers that would normally go 100% to the developers, like less fees and stuff. But I imagine they will always like. I haven't looked at the revenue share model for a while, but I imagine the expenses will be paid before any kind of revenue share happens. At least I think that would make sense to me. Like it would be based on the profits, I guess that would be. So the revenue share would be of the profits and not necessarily from raw revenue.
Right.
Because there's also expenses to running a game. But it would still cut into the profits of a potential studio that would adopt a similar model. And like one can argue that wouldn't really make sense for most developers. Like what do they get out of it? And I think that's a very difficult question to answer actually.
So do you want my fanboy answer?
I want any answer, sure.
This is admittedly a fanboy answer from someone that has been with them for a long time at this point. The team has always looked at how to do something and thought, how can you do it better?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a way to do gaming better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get more investment from the community if they share in the revenue. You're sharing in more than just a game at that point. You're sharing in the development, you're sharing in the project, you're sharing in the entire game. And sure, if you look at it just as a monetary standpoint, the developers could take more of your money and not do anything for you in exchange. But instead, the team has decided to accept your money, share it with folks that have invested into the project, and allow you to be more a part of the project instead of just taking it and giving you your pixels and saying, fuck off, I gave you some pixels.
So to challenge that a little bit, then how do you guarantee that everyone that participates in this revenue share is actually also participating in these beneficial things? Like how do you make sure that someone is not only there for the profits? Like I don't think you really can do that, or do you think so?
Does it matter?
I suppose in a way it kind of does, because if you are doing this whole thing for the purpose of getting a more engaged community and they like participate more, if that doesn't happen, then the whole argument for doing this model kind of falls apart. So I think it is kind of important to maybe not know if any one person is participating in the way that you want, but at least a way to figure out if more people are participating in the way that you want compared to the traditional model. Because there are passionate gamers in all kinds of projects, also in the traditional model. So how do you compare the effectiveness of this new model with regards to interaction or
Mhm.
interaction from your community compared to the old model. Like, I don't know
Let's
if,
see.
like, do you have any metrics that you can go for to say, like, this model actually benefits? Like, it's worth it not earning that extra money because of X, Y, and Z.
I mean, I'm curious. I think I would say there is no right way to interact with Eternity. Any
Hmm.
way you want to interact with it is the right way. Whether
Mhm.
that's, in the end, when we have Glory on chain and on chain items and stuff, whether that's participating in the market aspect of buying and selling Glory more as an asset, buying and selling in-game items more for any return that you think you can make on the market,
Hmm.
or playing the game, investing at the owner tier level, and having some of that revenue returned to you. I don't think there's a right way. I don't think there's a wrong way. I think
Hmm.
it draws in more people if Eternity is a multifaceted experience and can appeal to anybody that looks at it. I mean, ideally, of course, we want to bring gamers and we want to bring people that love to play the game and want to play the game. And that's, I think the primary focus is the game as it always has been.
Hmm.
But, if someone wants to come and invest because they're like, wow, look at this game. This is cool. I bet, I could invest some in this and it would be a good investment. Like, that's also a good way to interact with Eternity outside of the game. You could buy and sell stuff on the auction house if you have a good sense of the market and the value of the stuff in the auction house. You could buy and sell stuff there,
Hmm.
and that creates volume in the auction house. If it's the on-chain auction house, then I think there might be some like fees associated that go to the devs. Like, each thing designed seems to intend to benefit everyone that's participating.
Hmm. I
I guess at
think
the owner level, at the gamer level, it's different. You don't get the revenue share from the gamer. You just get the initial investment. You pay the initial investment and enjoy the game.
I think one argument that might be able to be made is if we go back to the whole decentralized organization part of it. Because at that point, you kind of have a small part of the community or a large part. I guess that the DAO can basically be as big as it can be, or at any size really. But some of the funds, at least I recall, was supposed to be controlled or governed by this DAO, right? At least in the models that we've seen. I don't know what the latest model is. I don't know if it's changed. If we go from what we know, then like the community part was governed by this decentralized organization, right? For the purpose of bettering Eternity as a project. And at that point, I think you are kind of getting this extra engagement because that wouldn't be possible in the old model.
Right.
Because there's no incentive to really do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was just
That makes a lot of
reading the
sense.
chat. Apparently, there's something wrong with the hero auction because the vampire listed is apparently gamer tier, but shows as owner tier. But yeah, what was I talking about? The DAO. Yeah, so you can't really have the same input because I think the idea is that the DAO has a direct line of communication, or at least as direct as it can be, to the devs, and they are like helping set like what are we gonna spend money on, and like basically a board of directors, but it's more like a community, like crowd funded or crowd sourced, I guess.
Right.
So I guess you could kind of see it as a public company in a way, but it's not, since it's decentralized. So the authority is kind of spread out between the players, ideally. Of course, it could end up being all investors that sits on all the coins in the end, but I think it really depends on how the space turns out to be, because otherwise we might just go full circle and go back to the old ways of doing things. But at least this is more open. You don't
Yeah.
really need a big understanding of how investing works and how stocks work and how everything works. You just need to understand how does eternity work. Like you have glory, you will be able to participate in some way that is yet to be defined. And if that is still the goal, of course, I'm going by really old information at this point, so that there might be varieties for the final product of however the model is going to be. There's also a lot of legal stuff, and I don't know what the latest stuff that lawyer people have figured out. So whatever they end up figuring out is probably the way that things are going to be run. But I think that would be the argument for why this model is better than the traditional one, because it has the potential of like empowering your players into essentially acting like a board of directors with the interest. Like you actually get a board of directors that are consuming your product. So you actually get people that know what the consumer wants as the driving force of the company.
Right.
So it's not just about increasing profit margins. It's also about how do we actually make a good product. Or at least it should be, because that's how you increase your product margins. Unless you are greedy companies that doesn't care about the consumer. But if you have the consumer as the board of directors, then you could hope, at least, that they would focus on stuff that they would actually prefer themselves as well.
They at least have an incentive to improve the product because they are using the product.
Yeah. And I guess that's technically not impossible for, like, in a traditional market. I suppose you could have a board of directors of people that actually, like, knows about the product they are in the board of. But I think in many cases they're just there for the money, probably. And maybe they have some skills that are useful for the company, but they might not really, like, have much care about the product itself.
Yeah.
And I think... Yeah, again, this is all speculation. I have no idea if this model is going to work out that way. It might just be that this new model turns into the old model and someone will have to come up with a new model and try it again. But I think the potential for having a new model that could redefine how projects are managed, or at least influenced, I suppose, is very exciting to me.
I mean, it gives, to some degree, we see a lot of games come out and gamers are like, oh, well, you did this wrong or you did that wrong. And, there's just a lot of like complaints online about it. But this gives an incentive to like put your money where your mouth is. Like this, if you own a piece of Eternity, if you own, a Glory and you have voting rights, it's like, okay, well, you don't like it. Fix it, put together what you want to see change, and now we can put it to the community instead of, devs sort of unilaterally making decisions on what should or should not be implemented in a game. Sort of an interesting curve on the aspect of a game.
Yeah, definitely.
But, there'll always be, I think, there will always be ways that anything can be improved. Nothing is, no model is perfect. Nothing functions exactly as intended in all conditions. So I think the good thing here, again, I'm going to be a fanboy. The like awesome thing here is that the team is willing to look critically at what is working, what is not working, and sort of adjust based on what they think the right thing is and community conversation about what the community wants to see or likes or any of that. So, they're not the board of directors in a more traditional sense where they just sit in their, ivory tower and do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah. And to this conversation, in case we have new people watching that might not know about the background of the team and stuff, there is a venture capital behind the team. So obviously there are some people that have some amount of control that are driven by financials. Not necessarily greedy. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that they have some obligations to people that aren't the community. Unless the VCs are also part of the community, but I think they're more on the business side of things and not so much playing the game. So I just wanted to be transparent about that. It's not like Eternity is free to do whatever it wants. It does have some obligations. So obviously there's going to be a third party in all of this besides just the devs and the community. At least for the time being, I don't know what kind of agreement they have.
Right. And along those same lines, I think the everything that we've heard about the VCs has been that they are also interested in Eternity as a successful and good product. So, if you think about that, that means it's a good and successful game. And that's, I'm here because I want it to be a good and successful game. And I feel like other people that invest in it also want it to be a good and successful game.
No.
So, I mean, I could definitely, I'm not saying that they are, totally altruistic here. Of course, they've made an investment and I'm sure they want to see a return on that investment.
Yeah.
But I would be curious if that resulted in some sort of conflict, because it seems like everyone wants a good game. That's how you get.
I would say they've had many opportunities to back out as a VC, because crypto has not been doing well over the last, I guess, year, if not more. So, yeah. I mean, the fact that they are still around and still supporting it kind of shows that they're not just in it for the money, because I think if they were just looking at the money alone, they would see that at this point, Eternity is not profitable. So there's no reason to put further investment of both time and money into it. Like it's a dead project or whatever. Right. But yeah, they see the long term of it, which I think most of us also do. And that's why we stick around. And they as well, probably.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just optimistic. My wife tells me that I'm like nauseously optimistic about stuff. So, that could just be me, but
well, I think most of us are. The question is if it's a bad kind of optimism. But I mean, the alternative is to be a pessimist and just say, well, everything is not great because we're not making a lot of money like from day one. But I mean, I guess you have to stay positive in order to keep everything together. Like I don't know how to really approach it differently. You have to kind of have the optimism in order to get things done, I think.
Yeah.
And have healthy conversations about it. Like we don't talk about Eternity always positively. Like we also acknowledge if there's problems. We've done so in the past when things have been not so great, and it's been like we've talked about it. We've had conversations about it with the community and fixed stuff. Like that's what I would like to see, at least personally. Like we can point out the things that go wrong, and we can talk about it.
It's the whole reason that there's going to be a off-chain game and running it through Web2 ecosystems, right? Yeah. Because if we weren't doing that, then there's nothing coming in. I mean, we've been around for enough time for the people in the crypto space to show interest, and I feel like I think everyone's so scared that like anything, almost everything's failed. So it's like the adjustments do happen, they have happened, and they have to happen, or else like it's dead in the water anyway. So
right.
Yeah, and I think even back before Eternity was a thing, like I think this community was strong in voicing opinions. At least I know I was, probably to the point where it was a bit annoying for the developers, because I was repeating a lot of things, and I might have been a little bit louder than most about my opinions, but I think on the other hand, it made sense. Like I was not talking nonsense. So I think other people definitely also saw the problems that I was highlighting, both in the old model, but also when they were proposing new things basically. And I think that's the kind of conversation that we really need and should have. And I think we should not lock down that kind of conversation. I think it's good to be critical of a product as long as it's constructive criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like as long as you can say why the product is bad, then it's fine for you to say that the product is bad. But you can't just say it's bad because reasons. Like it has to,
Mhm.
there has to be something backing it up. And if there is legitimate concern, then I'm sure most people will be able to agree with it. Like maybe it's something that we haven't thought about, and then immediately when someone mentioned it, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's a critical oversight or something. And I think that's basically, like, maybe not as an oversight, but I think that's basically what happened with the Web3 versus Web2 thing. Like we were going so hard on the blockchain, and the audience just wasn't there.
Yeah. I think that's, what ended up happening for most Web3 games. I think, most of the big Web3 games at this point have shut their doors as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the big ones that I have seen have shut their doors, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Think any dev listening, I'm sure, will agree that I have also not been a soft-spoken critic at times, whether it's publicly or a more private conversation. But always good to take a critical look at anything you're doing.
Yeah, and I think it's being good at responding to criticism is what makes the difference of a dev team that I want to support and a dev team that I don't want to support.
For
Yep.
sure.
Because it means, like, if they are responding positively to criticism, it means they are actually willing to consider it and act on it. While someone that is trying to just defend the product under any circumstance, like nothing is wrong with the product, it can't fail, it can't go wrong, like that's just someone that lacks situational awareness, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think the Eternity devs have always been good at responding to criticism in a way that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
At least from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And also, again, before Eternity was a thing, it was the same. Like that's at least that is at least what's kept me around.
Yeah.
Even as the Eternity team is an anonymous dev team, I still feel like I can trust them. And I might be biased because I've been around for so long, so I understand that not everyone can say the same. Some people will still have concerns for the fact that it's an anonymous team.
Right.
I think something that gives a bit more trust is that they are KYC'd with the VC, and the VC is a known company as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
I think we did background checks on it when we first heard about it, and so I mean, there is a source of truth in a way. Like, if they screw us over, they also screw over a VC, and the VC is not gonna just take that, I don't think. So
right.
I mean,
I would imagine they would pursue any and all options that they have available to them.
yeah.
If the team acted maliciously in any way.
Yeah, definitely. So that's also, of course, increasing the trust, even though they are anonymous for the wider audience. And also, just to be transparent, they are also anonymous to us. We don't know their identities either. I think only the VC knows. So we are again in the same boat as everyone else with regards to that. And I mean, crypto is a dangerous place, so I can fully understand people being skeptical. And that's fine. I think people absolutely should be. About everything. Also in traditional finance, by the way. It's not exclusive to crypto. Always be skeptical when people say things that seem like a fever dream. Like, you can play a game that actually makes you money sounds a bit too good to be true. So obviously you should be skeptical about it. Does it end up being successful? Sure, you can invest as much money as you can afford to lose and take a bet on it. But I mean, be prepared for it not to work. I think we've said this many times before as well, but I mean, none of us can guarantee that the Eternity model is gonna work in the long run. Like it's a new model. This is basically the test of the model. Like if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, well, then we bet on the wrong horse this time.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the gist of it. I don't think anyone here is gonna claim that Eternity is gonna make you a millionaire in 10 days or something. It's definitely not gonna be a get rich quick thing.
No.
And I don't think anyone is claiming it to be. And if they are, then they shouldn't.
Yes. It has never been a, get rich quick scheme.
Yeah.
Because those usually only get a couple people rich, and
Yeah.
it's no one that puts the money in. It's
Yeah.
only the people that take the money out.
No. All right, so we have about 10 minutes left, so I think we should switch over and talk a little bit about the heroes table. So internally, we've been talking about how to hold the episodes going forward because interaction has been very low, and that's not necessarily a problem. But sometimes it just doesn't fit in the calendar, and I think what we've discussed is essentially, instead of having it as a recurring weekly thing, where it happens unless we say it doesn't, what we've decided to do is basically the opposite. So when there is Eternity relevant stuff to talk about, we will have an episode, and then for the remainder of the time we will not. Because we do have many episodes of Eternity or a heroes table that doesn't really have anything to do with Eternity, where we just discuss a lot of stuff. And I think that is somewhat interesting to some people, probably. But for people that are interested in actually getting news about Eternity, I can imagine it might not be as interesting for them. So having to tune into something to figure out if it's even relevant for you is probably what is deterring some people from watching the episodes every week. And of course, we're not expecting people to watch every single episode. But I think this other model where we basically have an episode when there is Eternity relevant stuff, then at least we can satisfy everyone and say there's guaranteed to be some Eternity stuff in each episode. And then if we run out of stuff to talk about on that episode, then we can go into non-Eternity stuff, and then people can sign off at that point if they want. But at least they will be guaranteed that there is something Eternity related.
Yeah.
And
I mean that could change if after launch and it gets busy and we have a lot of maybe new people, new interaction happening, obviously.
yeah, we can always
if,
change back.
If the pace of development changes, and I think right now they're doing a lot of background technical stuff that probably takes a lot of time, but if they start rolling out new content frequently, we can always go back as well. So we don't want to do it to sort of withhold information, but it's probably more interesting when there's some real substantive, interesting things to talk about, like the auction house.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I suppose this is kind of an open invitation to the community to voice their opinions on this change. So join us on the Discord and let us know what you think about it, and then we will make a decision. But I think unless there is big outcry for that, I think that is how we're gonna go do it going forward. So this will be the last scheduled show, and then we will announce an episode when we have something to talk about. And then we'll see how this discussion is going on the Discord, and then we'll decide if we have to go back or if this new approach is acceptable by the community. So just think about that, and let us know if you have any objections to it, or if you think it's a good idea. We would like to know that as well. yeah, just if you have ideas for other ways of doing it, then we are also willing to listen to that kind of feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I had to say about it. I don't know if you guys want to add something to that.
No, makes sense to me.
Other than this has always been a voluntary,
Hmm.
like we do this on our own volition.
Yep.
The devs don't make us do it. We're not getting paid to do it. Like we're just volunteering, and Hisha obviously hosting and taking care of all of the technical stuff. It's been on his own time, so
Yeah.
which is appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem. Yeah, everything we do as community managers in the community is completely voluntary. The only people that get paid for Eternity stuff is the developers of the game, as far as I know, at least.
Yeah.
There's probably marketing people or something somewhere else in the chain, but at least for the people that we interact with, only the devs are paid. People on the Discord, I mean.
Wait, you guys aren't getting $1,000 checks?
Oh man.
The mailman keeps losing my mind. What's going on?
I need to speak to my lawyer. Yeah. So yeah, that's an important detail as well, of course, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get this Wasp Queen down, but with only my monk, it's proving to be a little bit troublesome.
What floor number are you on now?
You can use 5 and 2 skill, monk. 5 and 2 skill. Like number 5, like this one, but this is. Well, I guess that makes sense, well, except when it misses. But I don't feel like my problem is that I take too much damage. The problem is I don't deal enough damage. Especially when I get stunned and she can heal so much. I don't feel like my AoE attacks are that useful against singular enemies.
Yeah. Gotta get that mixture in of AoE and single damage.
Yeah. And I'm trying to keep the damage low from the Wasp Queen by basically removing the negative effects, like the swarm effects when it gets too bad. I think I had a pretty good stream of attacks there, but I guess my stun didn't help. Those misses definitely don't help either. Getting stunned is really not great.
So annoying.
Yeah.
So annoying.
I guess vulnerability is good if I hit. I don't think I need to reduce the chance to hit though. I'm not sure if that will help me in this case, because my monk is tanky enough to sustain the damage. But the vulnerability is definitely probably good to have. Let's give some more attacks. Still have 5 turns of vulnerability. No, we're getting somewhere. I hope. I think my Augur has some attacks that are really good against the Wasp Queen. But my monk alone is does not seem to be the best actor for the Wasp Queen. Okay, now it's
Are
probably...
his attacks like a lot of nature damage?
It's physical damage as far as I can see.
Okay.
Except for that one. But yeah, mostly physical.
I wonder if he has really high physical resistance. Wait, bleed immunity? When did the lady in red get bleed immunity?
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
That was for a long time. That's always been my go-to on bosses
Hmm.
is just stack bleed up and up and up.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Do I heal or do I attack? Probably attack on this one. While I have the vulnerability. More vulnerability. Let's go. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. Well, except when she's healing. That doesn't really help me. Stop
jeez.
regenerating. As long as I keep tabs on my health, then we should be good. I'm a little nervous about all of the poisons and stuff, so I think I'm gonna take care of that. And she's gonna regen a little bit. Too bad. More vulnerability? Sure. Also makes her a bit slower, which I suppose is a good thing. Not sure it really helps me in this case though. Hey, don't stun me like that. Stop it. No! Stop it! Don't regen. We need to stop this show at some point. I can't stay in this battle of attrition. I guess the Wasp Queen just really wants the show to go on.
The show must go on.
Yeah. Quote the Wasp Queen. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Don't regen. Don't regen. Don't. Do not. Get down. There we go. Well, that was something, all right. And at least I got a mythical item for it. So it was no, that's not mythical, legendary. I got a legendary item for it. So I guess it was worth it in the end.
Yeah. Not bad at all. As a side note, random note on this, I just played on Chrome on Windows 11 and it worked perfectly, whereas on Windows 10, only Firefox worked well for me.
It might have more to do than just the version of the operating system though, but I mean, it's good that it works.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the correlation is exactly because of upgrade from 10 to 11.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of new parts and stuff too, so that may help as well. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, for sure. It's always interesting when something starts working after not working without really doing like something yourself. And it's definitely interesting when it goes the other way as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But yeah, I think those are the words, unless you guys have any ending comments.
Nope.
Not at all.
All right, then I'll say thank you guys for watching. And remember to get on the Discord and engage in the conversation. And yeah, we'll see you guys around when we have new Eternity stuff to discuss. Until then, see you next time. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye, y'all.